Last time we saw how to use Redux Toolkit separately. Now we'll integrate into Expense Manager. First, we need to install. Let's check package.json. We have Redux and Redux Thunk. Now we don't need Redux Thunk. I can uninstall yarn remove Redux Thunk. So Redux Toolkit comes inbuilt with Redux Thunk. Yarn, and we have Redux, React Redux at redux.js/toolkit. Now store. Let's comment out this. Store equal to, first import this. Import. We need to import configure store. We can create store equal to configure store. There's control space, so we need reducer here. So it's an object, and we have two reducers, expense reducer and profile. So we need to create this, so we can say it expenses, and we can set it later. We can export this default store. So now we need to create slices. So Redux folder, and move this store inside Redux. And here we can create features folder. So that's the convention. You don't have to follow that, but it's good. So now here I can say expenses slice. Slice. JS. JS. Yes. There is no JS code here. So now I can import from @redux JS toolkit. So always add curly bracket and import complete statement, and then you will automatically get suggestion if you press control space, or when you type something, you will automatically get suggestion. So you will not make typing mistake. So that's why always add empty curly bracket. Now we need create slice here. Const expenses slice equal to create slice. For this we need name. You can call it expenses. Initial state. So it will be is loading false error msg empty, and we can say data, or we can call it expenses. It's an empty array, and we need reducers. So we can use reducers. Expenses request. You will get state and action. So now I can say get, let me add some more, get expenses success and failure. So I can export these action creator functions from expenses slice dot actions. So here I will get those suggestions: get expenses request, get expenses success, get expenses failure. Now you can see these are grayed out because I'm not using them. Let's export it. And we can also export default store expenses slices dot reducer, not store. So this reducer, we can use it here. Import expenses reducer from dot slash features expense slice. So this reducer is done, and here we can add the code. So state dot is loading equal to true, state dot error message equal to empty. Here state dot is loading equal to false, state dot error message equal to empty, state dot expenses. So we have expenses property action dot payload. You can remove from here, and here we can say state dot is loading equal to false. error message to whatever message we are sending. Action dot message or it can be empty. Go to app main store and to import this store from Redux store. We have only one store, right? Close all. src, yes, inside Redux we have store. So now that store is available to all of the components because we are wrapping app in the provider. Now everywhere we want to access those expenses inside app, we are using use expenses. So we are correctly using state.expenses because in the store we are calling it expenses. So we'll get these loading error expenses, and here while dispatching we can add that try catch. Go back. We'll first use simple Redux Redux toolkit simple way without thunk. So I will copy this, add it here. Const get expenses sync get expenses request. I will dispatch this API URL. Yes, get expenses success, get expenses failure. So all of these are imported. Now this will set that loading to true, and whatever data we are passing, that will go as a payload. So inside this success, we are setting that payload correctly to the expenses. And here we are getting those state.expenses. So this is correct. Now let's verify. Yes, it's working. We can check Redux toolkit, Redux dev tools. You can see expenses is printed. So slice that we have given, name we have given expenses. So it's expenses slash get expenses request with this name. So in this case, loading is false. Expenses request loading is true. And during success, it's false and you have these expenses. So initially it's empty. So this is working. Let's check for failure. If I make this URL wrong, refresh, failure. So during failure, you don't have any error message because what's happening? Let's check error. Inside error. So it's coming here, get expenses failure is getting called. Here we are saying action dot payload, not message. So you can see error while getting list of expenses. So as I said, whatever data you pass will automatically come as payload. You don't need to specify that. Otherwise, you can also specify error while something went wrong. We can say. So there is a failure, but you don't have a message. So in that case, you can say something went wrong. Try again later. So you will not see that message because we are sending that message. But if I don't send this, you can see now you get something went wrong. So you have that fallback. So everything is working. Let's fix that URL expenses. Now you have that data. Loading is also working. So initially you see this loading, that this loading is due to that lazy loading. So this loading, we can disable this success, so it will show the loading. You can see this is the outer loading, lazy loading, and this is for that table loading. So this is working. Get expenses success. So this is working now. Add expense is fine. So we have various API calls here. So add expense. So you can handle this also inside the reducer. So go to slice, zoom out. So what you can do, will you do that in the thunk whenever we are using thunk? So it will not be much code. So I can create add expense here, create a sync thunk. I can say expenses slash add, and I need a function here. So that function should return a promise. So we can mark this as a sync. And here we can add that add expense code. So this is the API. It's yours. This API URL data to add. So you will get that here, data to add. So that is the args. Now you need to return this. Here we are directly setting this data. So you actually don't need that data, but still you can return this data. You need something to be returned. Even if you don't return it, undefined will be returned. So there is no issue. So now we can add this add expense inside extra reducers dot pending. So we can copy this during pending state action. Fulfilled. You are not returning anything from here. So actually you are returning something, but I don't want to do anything here. So I will not update that expenses. And here rejected. During rejection, can set this here. So you are getting this error message. So you have that. And expense dot fulfill rejected. So here during fulfilled, I am not changing. So what I'm changing, I'm only changing is loading an error message. So I'm not updating that expenses. So whenever you go to the list page or you are redirected to the list page, you are already fetching those expenses using this get expenses success. So I don't need to again fetch this data. So we can call this, export this, add expense, and here I can set this. Let me comment this out. Dispatch, use dispatch. So you just call this add expense, and where is the data to add we are getting? Yeah, it's coming here. So we can provide it. So when we call this function, we are sending that data what I need to add. So here we are dispatching this, and that will automatically update that loading state. So I can use selector hook here from Redux state dot expenses, and I can destructure is loading error msg, and we also want success msg. So I want to show that success message. So go to slice. Here we can add success msg. So if it's fulfilled, state dot success msg equal to, so I can pass this information, close all others, action dot payload, or let's keep it empty, and here can set state dot success msg equal to empty. So again, when we make that API call, it's empty, and if it's successful, we set the success msg to the actual message, and here we again set it to empty. So now here we need that success msg. We don't need it here. So what we are doing anything now, after this success of 3 seconds, we are navigating to slash. So we want to know whether this is successful or not. So this dispatch function, what it returns, so we can check const data equal to this data. Let's go back. So dashboard is working fine. Go to add expense, some expense. Click on add expense. You can see response is a promise. So we get this promise, data submitted. From where data submitted is coming. Let's check Redux. Expenses add fulfilled. So you can see pending and fulfilled, both are getting executed. That means that expense is added. But we are not reading those expenses again, that is fine. We get a response. Promise, so it's aborted. Data submitted from expense form. Yes. Here we are adding response, we are getting promise. Objects are not valid as React child. What you can do, we don't want to return anything, it's just success. So payload, we can directly say expense added. What was that message? Expense added successfully. Yes, so now we can check. Yes, we don't have any error. Dashboard, you can see 3 expenses are there. Let me remove this again and we can try. Add expense card. Choose add expense. Expense added successfully, then will be redirected. So we are not redirected because we have removed that code. But if I go to dashboard, now we need to refresh this. So that code we need to handle. So here we need this redirection. That's why we are printing the response here to identify what's the response. So response is a promise. Arguments. We have all of the argument that we are passing. I can add await. So this returns a promise. So I can add await here. Let's verify this again. Response, now you can see you get payload undefined because you are not returning anything from this function create a sync. So now payload is undefined. Request status, so we can check for request status response dot meta dot request status equal to fulfilled. Here I can check if response dot meta dot request status is equal to fulfilled. That means that it's successful. So in that case, I will set timeout. Now here I don't want to show success message to empty because that is already cleared out in this particular space. So if it's success, we are clearing out, not here, here. If it's success, this message is displayed and we need to clear this out after 6 seconds or 3 seconds. So we are navigating, so that is fine. Let's check what's happening. So we are navigating after 2 seconds. So this is fine. Anything else? We need to call handle refresh. Before navigating, we can call this handle refresh. And this handle at, we are calling from here. And based on its response, we are resetting this. So we need to return something from here. When we are returning outside, I can return true here, else return false. So this is the async function which returns something, and that we are checking inside this expense form. So here we want that response. So based on that, we are resetting that information. So let's verify this is loading. We are not using, so you can remove this. Let me refresh again. Go back to dashboard, delete, add expense. Add expense. You can see it's reset, expense added, and now we are able to successfully see these shows. Let me close again. So here again on this page we have success message. Why? Because in this slice, we are setting this success message and we are not clearing this. Set timeout. You should not use set timeout in reducer or such type of code. So what you can do, you can add a condition here, clear success message. So state action, the state dot success message equal to empty. And I can export this clear success message. And once this is done, after 2 seconds, I can dispatch that clear success message. Let's try again. So this is shoots, add expense card. Add expense. Oh. Add expense added successfully. We are redirecting. This is shown when I click on add expense. Now that is not there. So I can add again. Let's check if it's getting displayed or not. Add expense added successfully. It's again showing, and we have that information. So how this is working? Go to expenses slice. I will explain you. So these are normal whenever we are fetching those expenses during use expenses. So here inside the app component, we have this user expenses hook. Inside this, we are fetching these expenses. So here we are calling this API, dispatching this. And whenever you have success, we are calling this success API. This is the function that we are calling and we are setting. So this all is related to add expense. And now all is related to get list of expenses, not add expense. And this one extra reducers that we have added a function. This is for adding the expense. So if you see the add expense page, previously what we are doing, we are making API call to add that expense. So the same now we are making it here. We are making API call to add that expense. We have this success message, redirection, handle refresh, and all of these things. So now inside this success message, you don't know what happened. Means you don't need the back response of that particular expense, because if it's successful, you will be automatically redirected to the list of expenses dashboard page. So we are not returning anything from this. So we will get undefined, promise fulfilled with undefined. So here, but that is successful. So if its request status is fulfilled, then after 2 seconds, you are calling handle refresh. So that will again call that API call. So when you call handle refresh, what will happen? If you see handle refresh, so it's in app. Handle refresh you are passing. Where is handle refresh? It's coming from here. So when the refresh value changes, you are again making that API call. So again, that whatever slice we have added, these APIs are again made. So you can see it here. Redux. Let me remove this. Shopping. Let's remove this. And expense. So whatever actions gets dispatched, you can see in the Redux dev tool. So when I click on add expense, you can see add is fulfilled is getting called. Then after 3 seconds, clear success message is called. So we have cleared that message. And then again, you are calling get expenses request and get expenses success. So you again get those updated expenses. So here we are calling that reload. What was that? Refresh, handle refresh function. Go back here. So when you call that handle refresh, we are changing that refresh, and you are again making that API call. So again, you are calling that whatever code we have written in the slice, and then you are clearing. So you should not have, as I said, inside the reducer, you should not have some asynchronous code here directly. So reducer is a pure function. So whenever we call, you should immediately get that data. That's why we have not added code of set timeout inside this fulfill. We can add that set timeout code to fulfill, but that's not a good practice. So we added a separate case of action generator function. So based on that, we just call this and it will update this success message. So it will update this success message value. So in any of these, we are not using success message. So only for add case, we have success message. So it does not matter. So here we have added this extra code. So as I said, you can use reducer, extra reducer as well as reducer. So this is a clear indication that you can use this also. If you want something extra to be done, you can do this here. So you have access to your dispatch also, as I said, Thunk API. Well, yeah, it's here, Thunk API. So Thunk API also contains dispatch. So instead of depending on this clear message, what you can do is you can destructure dispatch from Thunk API, and we can add it here. Dispatch clear success after 3 seconds or 2 seconds. Let's verify this. Add expense on this side. Add expense, you can see add is called, clear message is also called. And now if I go to add expense, you can see that is getting clear. So this is also working. So you can use this also. So you get this Thunk API. This is one way, or you can call it here. So either of these will work. So now this is about adding, and now we also have edit expense. So let's close all slice. We can add here edit expense. You can call it updates. And we also need ID. So from where that ID is coming here. So we can pass updates and ID, both of these. Now I can call this edit expense here, dispatch. And for this, I need ID and updates. This is an object. So expense updated successfully. Now again, I can use this edit expense. Copy paste the same here, and it will be edit expense. Updated successfully. So it's exactly same. We don't need this. Handle refresh again. If about that fulfilled. Response equal to await. Call handle refresh. So this is after timeout. You don't need this. Let's use this. So here we can use this clear success message again. Here I have added set timeout. Here I'm not adding that. So I'm using clearing in this way. So now if this is fulfilled, fine. And what does this require? Something? So handle edit inside expense form, handle edit. So it does not need any response. So during add you need that response to reset, and during edit you are not worried about what it returns. So we don't need to return any else here. So else is not required. Now let's verify for edit. Dashboard, grocery updated, update. So there was no success message. Where is the expenses? Oh, name, it should be different. Life expenses, edit. Let's try it again. Update expense. So we don't see that success message. So you can see expenses, edit pending is executed, fulfilled is executed. Expense updated message. So we are getting that, we are just not using it. Yes, so set success message. So we are having is loading success message. Can use selector hook. This use get expense. What it does is for getting initial. It's fine. So we are using the same variable success message that's coming from here. So on the page load, whenever we go to edit page, on the page load, we are making API call to get that particular expense. So that's where the success message comes. And later again, we set that success message. So here I can rename this to add success or get success. You get success MSG, get error MSG. So now these are not success related. Now go to use selector, state dot expense is success message, error message. And we also need is loading. Get is loading. dashboard, edit, not here, to grocery, updated, update. You can see expense updated successfully, and we are redirected. Grocery updated. Let's remove this. Grocery 5,000. You can see this is working. So what we are doing, we are using the same success message previously. So we are to avoid this name collision. So when you have same variable name, you cannot have same variable name. So you can see here we are creating constant, here we are creating constant with same name. That's why we are renaming this. So once we add this, we will be having only one success message. So now we'll add this get expense. So right now we have not integrated this get related API call for getting that particular single expense. We have not written that slice yet. That's why for now we have given these different names. So success message for add is different and for get is different. So based on that, we are displaying that error message. So here inside the edit expense, we are passing the updates and ID exactly same. So whatever we were doing here, then we have success message. So we are refreshing, then dispatching this success message, navigating. So all the code is exactly same. And here we need to dispatch that if there is any error, get expense failure. And we can process. We don't need that. During add expense also, we are doing this. Yes, use expenses. Yes, here also we are doing. So edit expense. Let's say the API URL is wrong. Now let's go to shopping. Updated. You can see something went wrong. Try again. Letter is coming. Why that is coming? You should have edit expense error while updating. What was that? Error while updating. So this will get called similar to this expense updated. Where it is? Add expense rejected. Let's see. Updated. Error while updating. So this is correct. So now what we need to do? We need to add slice for this. Use get expense. So this is get individual expense. Get expense, not expenses. So it's expenses slash get. Here we just need ID. We can directly access the ID here. Pass it here. We are setting this expenses. Set expense. Here we need another property. Expense. So this is all expenses. This is individual expense that we are setting. Not this one. Get expense. So we are dependent on this. Get expense. During success fulfilled. Now what we need to do? State.expense equal to action.payload. And we can set that success message to empty. Action here. Now go to the expense. So we need to return this data, then only it will be. So whatever data you are returning, that will go as a payload. So during this, there it is fulfilled. So we are getting action.payload. So action.payload is the data that we are getting from that API. So now this get expense, we can call it here. Comment this out. Dispatch. Use dispatch. And you are passing ID. You are not doing anything else. So based on that, you will get loading, success, or error message. So I can use selector. State dot expenses. So this is expenses because we are having store dot name that we are giving. So that Redux store slice contains that expense property. So I need that expense property. Here we are setting this expense only, right? So from this I can get that expense is loading, error message. So we don't need error message, and we can also get success message. So we are setting success message here. No, we are just returning. That's fine. Can remove this, set expense. So we don't need set success message, set error message. Use get expenses from where we are calling. Yes, so here we don't need set success, set error. So now we don't need these extra names. So we are already reading from this particular use selector. This expense we are getting. This expense. So where is this expense? Yeah, it's coming from the API. Yes, so we don't need this here. Again, remove this, remove this. So now what will happen when we load this edit expense page? We are reading from this, getting these expenses. So we are making API call to get that expense, individual expense. It will update that expense property is loading and success error message, and that store will get updated. And that we are returning from this custom hook. So whatever we are returning, we will get it here, and that we are using to display. So during add also, not during add, during edit. So whenever it updates, store gets updated. Wherever you are using that use selector hook, that component will get re-rendered. And if you are using custom hook, and that whatever data that you are returning from custom hook gets updated, that component will also get re-rendered. So edit expense component will also get re-rendered. So you will get that updated data here. So let's verify, add edit and get. So I can click on this, get is working, you can see. Go to another shoots, you can see shoes is correctly getting displayed. Go to shopping updated, this is also working. So now we just need to click on, let's say, shopping and verify update. Click on update expense, error while updating. So here, edit pending, edit rejected. See the console, patch 404 not found.
Double S
Yes.
expenses.
$50,000. Clear this, go to Redux, update expense. Our expense updated successfully, and we are redirected. You can see it's updated here also. So we are calling get expense request, get expense success. So this is for reloading again. So here we have edit pending, edit fulfilled. So we are updating these expenses, this state. If so, you can see is loading, success message is there, clear success message. Then we are again calling the success for getting all the expenses. So this is all working. So that's how you can use Redux toolkit to update any of the information. So add expense. If you have some asynchronous code, we also have delete, right? List, expense list, expense table. Yes, delete API we also have. So here we can create delete also. This should be name expenses, get this correct. Delete expense. So this name is important. That's how you can identify these particular actions. So you should not use same name for all of the actions. So you will not be able to understand which API is getting called. So during delete, this is our API. So you just need ID. And you are not worried about what you get from the response. So if the API is successfully, you will immediately call this handle refresh. So here you are not concerned about what it returns. So you can return anything. So when you don't return anything, undefined will be returned. But this is successful. So API is successful. So promise fulfilled with undefined you will get. Now this delete expense, we can call it from here. So get dispatch. For delete expense, you need to provide the ID. So you are providing ID and this will get deleted. So after that, you can call this handle refresh. So this returns a promise, so you can use await here. So what will happen if you don't use await? This will immediately execute. So when you dispatch, this will be immediately executed. But as this is a returns a promise, dispatch always returns a promise because we are using that thunk API, async thumb. So you add this await. So only after this promise is fulfilled, this code will be executed. So now we are just using error message here. So we can use selector here. State dot expenses is loading error MSG. Is loading, we are not using anywhere. So only if there is an error, then we get that. Now we need to add this delete expenses. During success, you are not doing anything. During error, you are setting this error. And you are not worried about what is the data coming. So you don't need that expense. Here now we are not setting expenses and not also we are not setting expense. So if it's fulfilled, that's fine. Just set this loading false, error empty, success empty. So this is all delete expense. Let's verify. So scroll down. When I click on delete, let me not delete this. So that's larger description. Click on OK. You can see grocery is deleted. So you have delete pending, delete fulfilled. So again, you are getting those APIs. So success, you will get those. Let me delete this shopping, cancel, delete. Okay. You can see shopping is also gone. So this is also working. So that's how you can create all the code using Redux toolkit. So you are not managing individual component is loading, is error message. All these states you are not adding to this individual component. So whenever the store gets updated, your component will automatically get re-rendered and you will get that updated data using that use selector hook. So that's how you can use this Redux toolkit to simplify your code. So if you are using core Redux, you need those reducers. So here now I don't need these reducers. So if you see store, you are directly using expense reducer. So I don't need these reducers. I don't need these actions. So your code is a lot simplified. In store also we have removed. So we are having store inside Redux. So this is all Redux toolkit related store. So you avoid this extra boilerplate code if you are using Redux toolkit. And it's very easy to use this using async thunk. So you also don't need to specify this. You don't need to use Redux thunk, install Redux thunk. You also don't need to configure any dev tool. So that is also automatically configured. So this configure store method has everything inbuilt. So when you use configure store, it automatically does that Redux dev tools configuration. Also it adds this Redux thunk. So you have support for all of this. This is done using this configure store method. And if you are using slice, so in this slice, whenever you use create slice, it automatically injects that emerges. So emerges library it uses behind the scenes. So you can easily modify the state directly. Even though you are directly modifying, you are not actually modifying the state. So reducer, as I said, reducer is a pure function. You should not directly modify. So it looks like you are modifying state, but you are not actually modifying the state. You are modifying copy of that state. So that is all done by the emerges library when you are using create slice. This makes your coding simple. Now we also have profile. So you can see here we are calling get profile actions. Yes. So right now you can see we have removed those profiles, so profile page will fail. You can see now we need to add that profile slice slice.js. Import from @redux.js toolkit. Create slice const profile slice equal to create slice. So use autocomplete name. You can give profile initial state. So what is you need? You need is loading false error msg empty, and you can say profile, or you can also say data, but that's empty null. So if you see profile page, use profile. So it needs is loading error message, profile, and success message also empty. Now what we need more reducers. So we will not use reducer, we'll directly use extra reducers. So let's create update profile, create async thunk, profile slash update. So make this async, that's very important because you always need promise from here. I can say dot pending state action. Don't need action here. So I can say state dot is loading equal to true, state dot error message equal to empty, state dot success message equal to empty. And that's it. The profile will be set to null only. Fulfilled. So during fulfilled, if you see get profile, oh, we removed that API call. So we know that it's 4000 slash profile. So this is our API call. And say const data equal to await axios dot patch. and whatever data you want to update, you will need that data here, updates, and take it from here. Let's see how it was previously. So we deleted that folder, profile actions. That's the advantage of having Git control, version control. So even if it's deleted, you can see what changes you have done. So this is for getting the profile, and this is for updating the profile. So update is successful. So you are setting Get profile success, message profile updated, and clear message. Update profile. Now we can export this const profile slice dot actions. We don't need those actions actually because we don't have normal reducer. Export default profile slice dot reducer. Now inside the store, we can add profile reducer, file reducer features slash profile. Data, we don't worry about data. Update profile and reject it. Error while updating profile. Try again later. So before updating, we need to get that profile. So we are actually over the time. So we'll do that tomorrow. So this is for update. We need to write the same for getting that profile. And then you will be able to use this particular profile slice in the profile component. So that's it for today. Any question?
Yogesh, so for get expenses at the start, we can still use similar extra reducer, right? If you want. Like
Yes,
we
yes,
did
you
for
can
other-
use. Yes, you can use that. So you don't need to use this way.
And we can shift that call here.
Shift that what?
Okay. And we can the call to get expenses. We can shift here also.
Anywhere
we
you can
write
put. So you don't have to use reducer. You can use the get expenses directly in extra reducer. So you create this async thing for getting all the expenses. So initially we started with this. That's why we use this. But you can use create async thing for getting expenses.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Anything
if
else?
we use that, then reducers and extra reducers, what is the difference then?
So if you are using a create async thing, you need to use extra reducers. It's
Okay.
fine if you don't use reducers. That is not required.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want just simple cases like clearing success message, then you can do it that in reducer. So you can just display this. So if you do this in create async thing, you will not be having that. So you have these extra reducers, and if you want to clear that message, you can just put it in reducer. So you can just display this action, and that message will be cleared out. So you don't need to call any function, create async function just to clear that error. So this is normal actions. If you want to do something, add that in reducer. If you are making some API call, always use async thumb. So here we are using this normal, but you should do that using async thumb only. So if you are making some API call, always use create async thumb.
Okay. And while deleting, are we using is loading there?
Yes, we are using where is delete? Pending fulfilled. Is loading is there. So is loading is in this state itself. So where it is here. So you need to set that something. So if you are using in some other pages, it should be false only. So that's why we are using that in delete mode. So you don't have to use it. So during pending, if in the list page, expense list, we have expense table, and here we are not using anywhere loading state. So you actually don't need to use that loading, but it's always good to set it to true and false while loading. So
So whatever we are initialized for others,
we are doing
is that
the same.
related with?
Yes, you don't need this. If you are not concerned about loading during deletion, that is not required. So
Yeah.
during other the action creator function, that you are already setting this. So this will also work. So go to home page, close this, start server. So during delete, no store found. Yes. Let me delete that profile. Reducer. So during delete, if I try to delete shoots, okay, this is fine. You don't have to worry about that because you are not showing loading. So only
Yeah, yes.
loading is displayed when you are fetching list of expenses. So here you can see you have get expenses success. At that time you are changing that loading. So during delete it does not matter. So this loading is displayed only when you are loading these expenses, list of expenses again. So
Right.
that's one more advantage. You can see that lazy loading, our application is not broken. So even if we have error in the profile page, your application is not broken because the profile component is not loaded. So when I am on dashboard page, only dashboard is loaded. So if you are not using lazy loading now, application will itself will not start because in the app
Yes.
component, you are using that profile page.
Right.
Profile route. So your application will break here and you will see some errors. But because of that lazy loading, your application is still working. So that's that one more advantage of lazy loading. So that's it for today.
Yes.
We'll complete the profile update tomorrow. Get an update.